Computer. Hey, good morning, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital. This is the weekend Creativity 202 check-in. Today we're at lesson 10 on April 30th, 2023. So we'll start with a real quick check-in. Damien, how are we doing?
I'm doing awesome. Good week. Making some progress thanks to you guys. We're on the right track. Well, we're good.
Chun Long.
Yeah, it's a nice week. The weather is nice. Is my voice too low?
What's that?
Is my voice okay?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, just to get us, announced and make sure the mics are working. Jeff, how are we doing from the cockpit of I don't know, is that your normal cockpit or is that generic?
That's actually one of our airplanes. It's not a firefighting airplane. It's a Cirrus SR-22, which is a popular runaround airplane. But yeah, in the background there's the fire that we were working. So I actually spent the first 3 days of this week in Oklahoma, actually traveling back and forth. And my guys worked on that fire really hard. But if I'm honest, when I arrived, so did the rain. And it rained all night and fire out. So happy to be back home. Everything is well here in Louisiana. The sun is shining.
So they're calling you the rainmaker, huh?
Right.
That's just what I do. I show up and good things happen, right? Ernie, how we doing, buddy?
Doing really well, thank you. Everything's going good here, and it's good to see everyone. Aho.
And Kyun, how are things?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. Not sure whether, this is my week because I came last week and it's got a bit messed up. So, but I think I'm here to kind of hear your stories and get the courage, really. So, I hope.
And for my part, a really good week. The rewiring of my brain with the koala writer in Chat GPT or GPT-4 continues at an astonishing rate. Great day on the soccer field yesterday. Half the kids on the other team, on both teams, are kids that come to my academy. And so they saw me and that they were playing against our team, and they all came over and gave me hugs, and we had a great time in the rec program, and it was so healthy and so much fun that a great day at work on the soccer pitch. And then we went down and watched our professional team just get absolutely murdered by the team that's in last place in the other conference, and we just can't get out of our own way. But if you're a fan, all you want to see is that they're competing as hard as they can, doing what the coach asks them to do, and that's what we're doing. And so either the luck is going to change or we're going to get rid of this coach who has just about used up his usefulness. So we'll see how that goes. Problem is, he's a Hall of Famer. And he's a Hall of Fame soccer player, U.S. national team player, was invited to become the men's national team coach, and he declined so that he could stay here. And much to the dismay of some people, just signed a 5-year contract, and now everybody's moaning that. So it's like he's pretty close to Arsene Wenger right now in our mind. He's a guy that's great, a legend, but has overstayed his welcome for a lot of people. But, there's still a lot of soccer left in him in his mind. He's fighting. So there we are. All right, I'm going to move us into the circle, and we'll get ready to go. And let me make sure I get everything fired up here. Yeah, okay. Sound is on, so. And we're off. Chunlong got you by a nose, Ernie. Chunlong.
Sorry, Ernie. Yeah, I hate wheat. um, yeah, my word of last week is a surrender. This morning I listened to Libby's recording for meditation. I attended Libby's 28 days course. Get that. So I thought, okay, I listen to that again. So surrender means to surrender to high power. For me, I have too much bad experience from past. Have to let it go and surrender to high power. Guide me to progress to next stop. Now think about those spiritual paths I take. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know what is spirituality. Then I joined the C202 program. Now tried many ways. Now first listen to all those workshops from One and the One Stop Institute. Then tried the oneness meditation. Tried Stuart Mooney's stuff. Listened to the Eckhart Tolle's book and tried the A Course in Miracle. Do all those things. I don't know what to say. I did read and listen to a lot. And if I compare myself to 5 years ago, that's a big progress, I believe, and a big change anyway. It is a critical change. But how to let those spirituality guide make me a better person, you'll try. Yeah, look at that 5 years interesting. Next, I talk about my trading. So I quickly review my 4 weeks of the April trading. The first 2 weeks, I take 1 shares. The last 2 weeks, I take $5 risk. Now, I cannot handle the 1 share because if I look at the PNL chart, hardly make money because the commission is too large compared to the risk. So I change it to $5 risk. The last 2 weeks, I paid my commission anyway. If review the last week, make a little bit money. For the 4 weeks, I lost $19. If I include the commissions, I could make some money, about $50 money. I feel better anyway, although I make many mistakes in doing so, but I feel better psychologically. Key learning from the trading. The first one, I traded too many symbols. I traded 36 symbols in the past 4 weeks. I even take 2 option trading. That's never in my plan, but I did it. Why I trade so many symbols? Just the fear of miss out. That's it. I thought something come out to take the trade. Didn't in my plan, but take the trade. Also, it's because of a mix-up strategies. Look at the long term, it's a good trade, but short term, it's maybe not. I think I try to do the hybrid trading or turbo trading. Why I don't have the basic skills. That's a lesson. The next mistake is I tend to take the counter trend trading. Try to take a long position in a downtrend day like last week, Wednesday and Thursday, SPY going down. I try to find some long position, not necessarily in SPY, but other symbols, but still it's against the trend. I try to take a short position in your up day, like a Friday. I even try to short SPY. I know it's not right, just the bad habit from past. I really need to do some psychological change to this mindset, from counter trend to go with the trend. The third mistake I did is cannot hold good trades. Always take profit too quick. Again, it's because of fear of loss. I don't want to turn the winning trade into a loss. So I raise my stop too quick. If I look at the entry, the SSC, or the collapsing dragon, the entry is okay, but just didn't let it run. The fourth one is maybe not a mistake, but I'm not able to take kata 2. Once I get out a trade, exit trade, I think it's too early. So I regret, then I cannot take the kata 2. Just hate myself. Yeah, why I get out? So still need to relearn how to take kata 2 for the continuation pattern. I don't have a plan to re-entry. Let's make, I remember, the mantra, re-entry is the key to sanity, but in practice, need time to really actualize that in my trading. The fourth learning is, I now enjoy the trading process. Just don't like the morning volatility. Not prepared to take the opening read breakout or 3 or 5. In my last 4-week trade, tried once. I said, whatever, I take one. That's it, but with a big hard feeling that did not like the volatility. Also, I did not like the gap. If you look at the charts, if such happen, I will take a trade. Or when the gap break above the level, I hesitate to take the trade. So in general, I also think about, I have so many informations, like what I learned from other coaches, the market timing model is a long-term model, review all those charts, get a conclusion, long-term trend, such. What do I do with the information? I don't have a clear answer to that. Then that impacts my intraday trading. I have to think hard about how do I do with information, with my analysis. So I think I get better in execution. So not as good as to do the assessment. That's about my last 4-week trading. I thought about this week's lessons, doing the lessons. I thought about the generational changes, what my parents did in their times. Basically, they just try to survive. But they did have vision for us, for their next generation to thrive. We lived in a very remote rural area, very small village. Even in China, it's a really bad situation, bad area. But four of us get education in college level. I get 2 master's degrees. My younger sister, also moved up to a small business person. So that's my parents' generation made a change. For me, I never faced the survival difficulties as my parents did. Once I graduate, I have a good salary, even have a luxury considering move from China to Canada. So in my generation, my life is try to thrive, getting better. And I think about my son, we came from China to Canada, the first class country, when he was 6 years old. I always try to get him better education as I can, but I don't know what he thought about his life now. Get a job. It's a good job. In a normal way, it's a good job. The public servant, they are in strike in Canada right now. I don't know. They have good pay, but they struggle to get more. That's what I thought when I do in the lesson. And my plan for next week, I will continue at least 2 weeks reading the 3-minute charts, try to focus on less symbols, try go with the trend, try to learn take kata to continuation pattern. Something new for me, I really like the 30-minute swing, which Ken's podcast for a couple of weeks now every day. I really like that, but I didn't get a clear understanding how to do that trade. So for me, I will try to write out some mechanical rule how to treat 30-minute swings. I don't have the patience, so I try to trade the 3 minutes. But I don't like the intraday stuff, so I like swing trade. I still need to find a balance, for myself. Why focus on what? As long as I pay my commission, I have free meal to play the digital video game. Hopefully I'm getting better next week. I hope.
Ernie.
I just want to go before Chun Long because he sets the bar so high. Plus, I'm always thinking that everybody else is working on what they're going to say, so they really won't listen to me, and I can get away with being sloppy and terrible at it. But no, all of you guys really do a great job, and I'm very grateful. I like the lesson, and I prepared. I brought all of my trinkets, my little things that I have my rubbing stone, and have my little ball that I can squeeze. I have my rubber bands that I can pop, and so I like the talk about the superstitions. The Red Baron had his scarf and things like that. I'm I'm the same way. I have the things that I think are I don't know. I really don't believe they bring me luck, but just makes me feel comfortable. Part of my routine, I guess, for the day. And I like the lesson. See yourself as part of a bigger narrative. And for me, that means that you're not alone, and that you need to do what you do. You need to do it well. You need to do it for yourself. You need to do it for your friends and for your family. And then the thing is that when you need to step up and do something, there's going to be other people who will help. They'll help. They'll teach you. They'll assist you. They'll support you. And we're not in this world by ourselves. The thing that I feel, well, that's important is honesty. The lesson said that the psychological boost comes from telling ourselves true stories about how innovation can save our lives. Um, the lesson emphasizes true, it's in italics. And I really do, I almost feel like that was done for a reason, because I have to be honest with you. I am not always honest with myself when I'm trying to do stuff. Um, I have a friend that says that everybody lies. I think the worst thing is when you lie to yourself, um, and you know it. That's what's even amazing to me, is that I'll say that I'm going to do something or whatever. I don't tell the world that, but I make a plan, and then I don't follow the plan. So in essence, I am lying to myself. So I do think that it's um, so important about um, being honest with yourself, and in the planning and the preparation, that you're telling yourself true stories, and that it's just I just feel that's a very important thing. There's one thing that I thought about, and I remember I believe it was I was in high school, and a teacher had I, I was part of a debate club and for a while, and we have the story where whenever you get up in front of a crowd, you're going to imagine that everybody is either in their naked or in their underwear. And so that gives you the confidence to make your presentation. But the thing is, what if it's not the crowd that's naked? What if it's you that don't, it's not standing there without your clothes? And the point that the debate instructor was trying to make is that you need to go out there prepared, and then to start thinking about the rest of the world, and then whatever it takes to give yourself the confidence to make your pitch. And I've always thought about that. And when I listen to others talk, I'm thinking that, boy, their presentation is pretty darn weak. They haven't done the planning and the preparation that they need to. You know, you got there and you're listening to some of the stuff that goes on, that you can really tell that somebody is either they don't have the confidence in what they're talking about, or they haven't done their homework. I really do believe that I am part of a bigger narrative. I just feel that I want to make my contribution to the world. When I do the lesson, I really take a lot of notes, and the thing, and what it is in the lessons that stand out to me, and it was the talking about optimism, resilience, and self-belief. And that really comes from plan, prepare, execute, set. And I just feel that that's what I got one of the important things that I got out of the lesson. And it's adding to my list of questions. I love the questions in the lesson, because it's like, what's my answer today? What's going to be my answer tomorrow? And I know that my answer is going to change, but it'll change from experience and from being in there and getting the bruises, getting beat up in the game. But it's going to come from learning and the knowledge that I gain. I am part of a bigger narrative. And it's my belief that individuals win fights and even battles, but individuals don't win wars. My goal is to be successful as an investor and making creativity a part of that. But my success as an investor is not to be successful alone. I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I certainly want to enjoy making money, but I also want to provide for my family, and I want to contribute to society. So that's what I think, that's some of the information that I got from the lesson. There's a lot more, but those are the things that I felt that you would be interested in hearing what I got out of it. My plan is for the week is I'm really enjoying the 30-minute trading that Ken does each night. I'm really, it's almost like a game, you know, what's Ken going to do? What can I see it before he does? Naturally, I don't, but my goal is just to see it, period. And then if I don't, being part of a bigger narrative, I'm going to take what I can from what Ken has talked about each night. I'm trying to do that as part of being part of the tortoise community. And it's not just from Ken, it's from all of you and everyone else that takes part and shares their experience. So I'm enjoying it. I really am. I've enjoyed what you guys have done. I've enjoyed the things that I'm learning. I feel that I'm a better investor, and I'm enjoying the evolution that I feel is taking place. And it's just an amazing thing to be aware of it and to experience it, and then to see that what you guys are getting out of it and sharing the experience that you have. So it's a great experience. Thank you for your help. Ow.
Jeff.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, another good lesson. I enjoyed it, actually. And my takeaway from the story is I like to think of myself as logical and rational most of the time. But I also accept that other people's don't always see me that way. So, you know, I've had people, you know, watch us fly, and their response is, "You guys are crazy to do something so dangerous." But that's just another perspective, a different perspective than what we have. We realize the risks, but we have reasons that we choose to do what we do, and we don't consider it crazy. But we get used to other people labeling it that way. My synthesis of the lesson was basically that true belief will prevail. If I believe that I can, then I will at least try. the outcome is uncertain, but I will make the attempt. If I believe that I can't, then I won't make the attempt. And I realized that somehow you need fuel. I need fuel in the tank to find that courage to try. Where does that come from? As Ernie said, I think in trading, it comes from the planning, which is the what. Planning says this is what we're going to do. The preparing says this is how we're going to do it successfully. At least we imagine in our minds that if we employ our knowledge and skills and tools, that we can make an attempt that has a chance of succeeding. So that's where the fuel comes from for me to find that courage. It's inside me. It always has been. I have the opposite problem of some people. I have to check myself and make sure that I'm not proceeding too boldly with not enough planning or preparation, because I don't have the fear is not my biggest problem. Usually it's in most areas. Now I have fear in other areas, but in trading and in flying, I have to make sure that I'm not overconfident, make sure that I've considered all the variables. I've described myself as a lifelong learner. And I heard Ken say it wasn't here, but somewhere else this week, that he had bought 5,000 books and read 50 of them. I've bought way more than 5,000, and I've read all of them except a few that were just unreadable. Like I would at least read a quarter of it and then trying to find some reason to continue. Very few. So I'm an avid reader. That's my primary modality. So it made me ask myself, after all these years of reading and learning, I love to learn, but what am I actually searching for? I think it's truth, because it resonates with me every time I see it or hear it in every modality. I think that's what keeps me reading and learning is looking for truth in different areas. I made a list of the exercise of the historical moments that I thought was good, and then rereading it, I realized I really missed sequentially. I missed some really important moments. But exercise 1 was make a list of 10 historical moments where technology changed the world, making an underdog into a victor. So the advent of fire, I think, was an early important thing. And then language, spoken language, the wheel, irrigation, trade routes, brought all the tribes together. And that's a model that still exists in some form today. Sailing vessels, railroad, electricity, radio, industrial systems. I just kind of lumped the 19th century revolution into that description. And then silicone chips, which provided all the computing power in the world, and finally the internet. And every one of those was a paradigm shift and a game-changing technology. The trader exercise about overcoming fear. Like I said, that's not my problem in the market. I'm not afraid. That's probably the problem. But my stop is what keeps the fear at bay, because I don't know. It talks about the lions and the crocodiles and the shark. I think of the market as having sharks in it. That's the metaphor that comes to mind to me, is that I'm in there swimming with the sharks that may be hungrier and more skilled than I am. But I have the shield of my stop. So I don't know how much risk they're taking. I don't know if they're all in or not, but I can define my risk. And that's what manages the fear side of the trade for me. Pick a power word. So I told you before at the beginning of this creativity course, AHO really resonated with me, and I've just made that a daily practice. I don't always say it out loud, but to me, when I say AHO mentally or verbally, that is acceptance, true acceptance of what just happened as a factual event that I have to just accept and let go of that. It could be a trading loss. It could be anything in life. And then I added to that the words let go or let's go, and the let's go means we need to move from where we got to change positions. We got to move from where we are. So something actually just happened. we say aho, accept it, and then let's go is the action signal to do the next thing. So that's, those two combined are kind of my new mantra for bringing up that courage by letting go of the fear of repetition or whatever baggage I might have from what just happened. I have another event I'll describe, which is the opposite of that. And the sound, I know Ken is a very auditory person. I absolutely love music. I read books and listen to music. Those are my two things. And the music is kind of like the recharging mechanism in my life. So I'm an introvert. That doesn't mean I'm shy. It just means that interaction with large groups of people for extended periods of time doesn't energize me. It just drains me. So I need some alone time to re-energize. But for me, the music is like plugging into the outlet to recharge for the next battle. So I love music, but the sound that came to mind, I was trying to think of something, pick a musical note. But the sound that came to mind was thunder, like Midwest thunder, the kind that startles you enough to change your behavior. And if you live in the Midwest and you've experienced summertime thunderstorms, you know what I mean. It rattles the windows. So that's the sound that came to my mind. And when I hear that sound, I usually stop exactly what I'm doing and go look out the window and decide, what do I need to do next? So to wrap this up, I'll share a couple of stories with you. The first story, can you guys see my background that I changed? It's a picture of an airplane. There's a person standing there, and that's our director of maintenance. And that piece that he has his hand on is a landing flap. They're supposed to move together symmetrically. This time they did not. So this is within 10 minutes of me landing. And the story, so this is the last time and one of the rare times in my life that I've actually felt fear and associated with aviation, which is my chosen profession. But this airplane is, to me, is like your car or your pickup truck is to you. That's how little thought I give to actually flying this thing. We've had a 20-year relationship, and we use this airplane as basically a flying pickup truck. So we move people and parts from where they are to where they need to be. We use it for our own necessary travel. So I don't even remember where I was coming back from or why I was flying that day, but I do remember that I had arrived home right directly overhead my home base airport. And that's something that as pilots, we guard against. That the desire to get home has killed a lot of pilots. They've taken a lot of unnecessary risk because they wanted to get back home. But this was not that. It was a perfect day. You can see that's just blue skies, no wind, everything's great. But I had this super secure feeling of satisfaction that the job is done and I'm almost home, like within 2 or 3 minutes. And as aviators, we have these key positions, just like Ken teaches in trading. There's a time and a place to do certain things. And if you learn to do that well, the outcome tends to be very consistent. So there's a key position where I reach over and move a lever in the cockpit that extends those wing flaps to the approach position. And what that does is it changes the airflow over the wing, and it allows us to slow the airplane down to a slow enough speed that we can extend the landing gear. And those, like I said, those two flaps are supposed to move symmetrically. And in this case, I instantly knew they did not, because when I moved that lever, I did not get the result that I've always gotten from that airplane in the last 20 years. It developed, so you see that the part, this is a mirror image of the actual photo. So we're looking at, it's left is right and right is left. But that's actually the right flap, even though since I put it as a background, it somehow inverted it or flipped it around. That one should match the other one. They should be at approximately 12 to 15 degrees of deflection. And the left one stopped in the proper place, but the right one continued all the way down to the 40-degree hard limit. So the airplane instantly developed a hard roll to the left, so it was trying to roll upside down, which I just instinctively countered with the control that I had available in the cockpit, the roll control. But the first thing I noticed was this is not good. It's not normal and it's not good. And the second thing I noticed is it took 75% of my available control to keep the airplane from rolling upside down. I quickly moved the lever back to its original position, because that's two things we train all the time is just fly the airplane. And my students start hearing that from the very first day, and they hear it every day that they receive any kind of instruction from me. Is number one, first and always, is just fly the airplane. And they say, well, the engine just quit. I don't care, just fly the airplane. Well, something bad just happened. I don't care, just fly the airplane. That's our job. Don't ever stop flying the airplane. So that's ingrained into us. I moved the switch back to where it was. And the second thing I teach is, if you move something or you perform an action and you get an unexpected result, put it back where it was. Reverse what you just did, because the probabilities are that you just did something unintentional that caused that. In my case, that didn't work. From my seat in the cockpit, I can see both of those moving controls. Those are secondary control surfaces, but I can see them both from the cockpit. So I quickly established what was causing it, and I went through a couple of checklist items. That particular failure destroyed the whole system, so it was locked in that position. I couldn't affect it in any way. And that took about 4 seconds, I think. It seemed like a lot longer than that. But when I was able, I focused in on the problem temporarily and instinctively just kept flying the airplane. And when I was able to focus wider, I realized that I had flown my standard traffic pattern, and I was now at the second key position, which was a beam the landing area at the altitude and speed that I needed to be. So I put the landing gear down, because that's what we always do in that position. And I knew that the landing gear had a stabilizing effect on the airplane and not a destabilizing effect. So I'm in the perfect position to land but I'm a test pilot, because I've never had this problem in this airplane before, and never talked to anybody that had this problem. So I had two choices to make. One was our airport is uncontrolled, meaning it's a smaller airport. There's no crash rescue people. There's nothing like that. I have trained people there, but I couldn't contact them. So I briefly thought about calling my people on my cell phone and informing them of this problem, so that they could be standing by with fire extinguishers and maybe call 911, get some folks headed that way. But I literally couldn't take my hands off the controls. I was so busy, I couldn't do that action. So I discounted that, because if I'd have tried to do that, the airplane would roll upside down. The other choice I had to make was whether to land at my airport that I was at, or 18 miles away is a bigger airport with crash rescue services, and I could contact them en route on the radio and get that action started. And I discounted that because it was 20 miles away. Not knowing how this problem was going to develop or what was going on, I decided to just continue doing what I was doing, which was trying to land the airplane at my home airport. So that was about it. From that point on, it was just fly the airplane. There were a few decisions to make and a few things to try, but I just flew a relatively normal traffic pattern. Chose a slightly higher than normal approach speed, because I wasn't sure if the problem would get worse or get better as I slowed the airplane down. And I certainly wasn't going to do any experimenting. So the landing actually ended up being probably one of my best, because I had no choice and I was super focused on doing it right. And then the interesting thing, as I slowed down, actually the problem got better. So I had more control, and it took some non-standard techniques to get the airplane on the ground, but actually the landing was fine. And then I rolled down the runway, and I remember I was excited, but I wasn't fearful. Like, I never thought I was going to die or anything. I was just too busy doing what I was trained to do. But I remember being excited. My pulse rate was high. I was breathing heavily, and I was super relieved, like, to be on the ground, And then the strange thing is, it took about 3 minutes to get from the end of the runway back to the hangar where this picture was taken. And during that time, I got angry. I decided I'm going to find out who caused this and I'm going to punish them, right? And that's where that was not fear in its traditional sense, but that was the genesis of that, right? That was a fear expressed. But I got that under control because I do consider myself somewhat of a professional. I landed the airplane, I taxied in the normal way. I did the shutdown checklist, shut it down, and then I went and got this gentleman who's our director of maintenance. He's the highest person in that field. And I told him, I said, hey, stop what you're doing, come out here and look at this with me, and he just knew by my demeanor that this was something important to me. So he did, and that was me standing back and assessing, like, this just happened. And the end result of that is we put the airplane in the hangar. We immediately started taking it apart to find out why that happened. And the discovery was that it was a failure of a part that could never be inspected unless you disassembled the entire system beyond what any manual or procedure has ever described before. So you could do all of the required inspections in a diligent and perfect manner, and you would never find that. You would never prevent this. The occurrence is unlikely, highly unlikely, or they would have procedures and manuals for inspecting it, right? But it happened to me, landed the airplane, we fixed it. And the funny thing is, everybody said, oh, wow, you're such a great pilot and you're so courageous. And I don't really believe any of that, because from the time it occurred until the time I landed was maybe 2 minutes tops, 2 or 3 minutes. I didn't have any real choices to make, right? It was either fly the airplane successfully to the ground or die in this airplane. And I never, the second thing never entered my mind, not one time. It was, I'm going to fight to get this thing on the ground no matter what. However, the reason I tell you all that is to tell you, I never experienced fear then, but 5 days later, and I'm just guessing, I probably have it written on my calendar, but I didn't go back and look. But some period of time later, 3 to 5 days later, we had diagnosed the problem, ordered the parts. We had inspected, several mechanics had inspected that airplane from end to end. But 5 days later, I had to walk back out and get back in that airplane and go fly it again, knowing that the last time I flew it, in my mind, I remember thinking, you tried to kill me last time. What are you going to do to me this time? So that was actually where I recognized that I was afraid to go fly this thing. And I quickly acknowledged that and realized that we had done everything possible to make that airplane safe to fly, and now it had to be flown, and I was the guy that was going to go fly it. So I did everything. I overcame that fear, got in the airplane, and went and flew it in the standard way with all the precaution that I knew how to generate and all the professionalism that I had. But I remember 2 moments. The first moment is when you release the brakes and start down the runway, is like, you can still abort the takeoff, but there's a point where you're going too fast to stop. So you have to go fly. So that's a point where you're all in, and everything went normally. But the other slight bit of fear was when I had to go up and slow the airplane down and reach for that lever again and see if it was going to give me the result that I wanted or the result that it did last time. And of course it worked perfectly. It's been working ever since. I fly that airplane regularly and I never think about it now. I trust it again. But that's my story about the last time I felt fear in an airplane and how I overcame that. It's in me. I don't know exactly what all the ingredients are for that fuel tank or whatever, wherever courage resides inside you. I think of it like gas in the tank, right? I need some fuel to be able to summon that when it's time, when it needs to be applied. And that's something for me to explore and think about a little bit more. The other thing I'll share with you on trading is this Friday's trading experience. And I'm just going to read to you my coach's journal. So I've been attempting to model myself after Ken and follow his teachings, and so I'm I wear all the hats, I'm the trader, And then I'm the assessor during the after action review, and I modeled that just like we do in aviation. So what was planned? What did we plan to happen? And then honestly assess what actually happened and find the gap, because there's always a gap. And then what are we going to do? You know, what good things did we do today that we're going to take forward? And what did we do today that we need to improve on? And then I've also taken on the coach's hat. And I realized that to have an honest assessment, since I'm the only player, the only physical player in this game, I have to write everything down. The only way you'll be honest with yourself is if you document every one of those steps, so that anybody could go back behind me and say, yes, this is what happened. This is, you're not fooling yourself by omission or by describing it inaccurately to yourself, like Ernie said, I think. So I actually have a coach's journal. I have screenshots of all my trades. I have my data logged in with the histogram and all the stats. And then I have my trading journal where the execution part of me writes down our perspective. Like, this is what happened. This is what I did. This is why. This is what I felt, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized that the coach has to write his own journal, right? So this is just a verbatim. I'm just going to read it to you. This is a verbatim. This is what I wrote down from the coaching session on Friday after the trading that I did. So it's the idea of having a trading journal and a set of coach's notes as separate artifacts that a written perspective from the coach's eye is as valuable as the journal itself. So I now have both of those things. So this was trades. This is 3-minute charts. I've kept track of them, the lower time frame trade separately. So this is trades 320 to 326, and the symbols TLT, US Steel, and SPXS, which is a short ETF on 28 April 2023. And this is what, and I've also seen that in all of my documentation, I'm changing the words that I use because every single word is important. In the beginning, you can read my journal and see words like may or might or ambiguous words. So I think the coach has to write an objective account. And it's difficult to find the right words when you're coaching yourself. So this is my best attempt so far, and I'm sure I'll get better at it. But this is verbatim what I wrote down. I see that I was ready to trade at the open. The OR3 trade on TLT should have been closed at 1R or a half an R, or even no lose plus dinner for 2. But I see that there was a belief that it was going to work, resulting in a scratch trade. There were 3 other potential exits that could have been chosen. The next trade in TLT does not look like an A+ setup. However, it should have produced a positive result. A mistake occurred on the exit. It should have been a win, but the position was doubled instead of exiting. The trade should have been exited with a buy, but instead more shares were sold. This created an additional unintended position. 30 minutes later, the error was discovered and both positions were closed immediately. Well done. This error has happened 2 times in the past 3 months, and today it resulted in a -2R loss. The third TLT trade looks like a revenge trade that lost a fraction of an R. Because I reviewed that entire chart instead of switching back and forth from one chart to the other to do them in chronological sequence. I usually just review one chart at a time. So that was a series of trades on TLT. The SPX trade was a WMB3 trade that produced a 0.5 win. Nicely done. There were 2 trades in US Steel. This is where I see evidence of professional work being done. The SSC was traded very well, and the CATA 2 was also traded very well. I like the 1, 2, 3 entry, and both exits were excellent. These 2 trades produced a positive 3.75R. I see that I was juggling work and trading again this morning. I see that I did reduce the number of symbols that I watched and traded. Well done. If not for a belief in an error in TLT, I believe that this would have been a very satisfying day. Total R for the day was 1.9 on 6 trades. It could have been more like 5R on 4 trades without the compounding effect of the error. So one error led to subsequent issues with my trade. So I took one trade that should have been a winner and turned it into 2 losing trades, fairly large losing trades. One of them the first trade lost 0.8 and the second trade lost 1.12 because I was literally trading without a stop on that trade that I wasn't aware that I was in. So the corrective actions, I have 8 things that my coach wrote down for me. Was use the trade window it's on the checklist. The idea is confirm confirm my action. Did I just do what I thought I did, or did something else occur? The trade window will tell me that. So confirm my actions by looking at the trade window, which shows all my current positions. Install the flatten button on the execution platform. That's already been done. And on Thinkorswim, if you're in any position, if you hit flatten, it will get you out with a market order of the correct type. It knows that you're short, so it will buy you out of that position. So that's been done, and use that for all manual exits. So what actually caused this error was the same thing that happened 2 other times. I was moving my stop down to closer to price action to try to capture that R as I recognized that it was time to exit. My stop was probably at no lose plus dinner for 2, and I was moving it. I saw price reverse and come back into the dragon or something, and I'm trying to move it closer to price to get out with 0.7 instead of 0.3. And what happens in Thinkorswim is if you accidentally drop it in between the bid and ask, the order just disappears. It doesn't go back to where it was. So that forced me to reach up and push a button to exit that trade. And I pushed the sell button instead of the buy button, and I didn't confirm that. So number 3 is watch and trade fewer symbols. That's been my coaching for myself for quite some time now. If you can't trade 1 perfectly, why are you trying to trade 4? So it says watch or trade fewer symbols, watch 4 and trade 2. That doesn't mean I only have 4 things on my watch list. It just means I'm not going to have more than 4 charts open, and I'm not going to trade more than 2. And my advice to myself is this is enough for now, especially when I'm juggling work and trading. Number 4 is patiently wait for A+ setups and then execute like a boss. Number 5, know that I can decide to show up as a professional tomorrow morning, meaning that just leave this stuff behind. It's over. We know what we did and we know what to do. So we just go do what we know how to do. And number 6 is aho. Whatever happened was always going to happen anyway. Where's the lesson in it? I believe that, and I practice that. Number 7 is just stating a belief that I have that when I trade, money will be made and learning will occur. Because if you remember a month ago or so, 2 months ago, I had this conflict between should I be trying to make money or should I try to learn? I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you'll be trying to do both of them for the rest of my life. So, and then the last thing, number 8, is let's go. Like, let's go do some work. And that's all I got for you guys today.
Well, we expect you to raise your game next week to pay off the deficit of our expectations. So. Cool. Good. Unmutify.
Did I just mute myself? Because I'm sure I pressed that button rather than unmute. Oh, I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, so I'm not super prepared this week. I think I'm not even very prepared, not prepared at all. But anyway, I felt that I wanted to come, after reading the lesson and seeing it, talk about courage and I can sure do with some courage, and I know that, you know, in this place, this true storytelling circle, you know, we can be in a position of trust, and I always appreciate the you know, the kind of stories that get told. So maybe it's just to get some courage for myself, really. It'll probably make more sense if I tell you my work in progress. So what I'm doing is, of course, you know, Ken has been showing the swing trading, and of course, you know, the results are really impressive, and I've started trying to really get into it. I think I said last week that actually I found it quite difficult because it's not the same as a 3 minute. It feels very slow to me, and you really gotta sit on your hands, you know. So it's slightly different to me, different. Well, it's different pace, and maybe you need to think about it differently and manage the psychology differently. Anyway, I thought it would be easier than the 3 minute, but actually I found it to be harder, and I'm not really getting the results. For example, in Alcoa, the last 2 days of Ken, I think you just closed a trade or a couple of trades or two positions. That was like 5 hours, something like that, which was really good. I didn't get in the day before, and I got in yesterday, which I thought was actually a very good entry. So, but what then I did was I went down to the 3 minute to monitor the trade. And in the 3 minute, then I actually exited the trade at like 0.5 R. So at least it wasn't a loss. But if you look at it in the 3 minute charts, it's quite choppy, and it's very difficult to trade. But if I just backed out to the 30 minute, I wouldn't have got out of the trade at all. Meaning that there was no signal, there was no anything to it was just moving up. So I had to learn to do that, and I think that is one of my problem, and maybe similar to Chen Long, is like, you know, you know, fear of it, you know, going into a loss, and or whatever, fear of it coming back, and that. So I think that's what I'm really struggling with, really. Let me see. The other thing, well, let me put some positive stuff into this. The other thing, actually, the other thing I discovered, I went to look at one of the advanced swing trading, I think, videos, and it was just an intro video. And I discovered something. I discovered the RL30, which I didn't have on my chart before. But I noticed now that Ken, when you do the nightly podcast, the RL30 is on your chart. And I mean, it's like, I said, wow, this RL30, and it's the, you know, the owl pattern. I actually started looking properly at the owl pattern, because, you know, I thought sniper was just, okay, we simplify this, we get rid of all, you know, RL30 and all this other stuff, and bare bones and trade that. So that's what I started with. So anyway, I started, you know, looking at the owl pattern. And I said, when I put this RL30 on, and if I actually wait for confirmation from the RL30 turning, I would actually get much better results. Because most of the time when let's say you get an SSC, but before the RL30 turns, you could get in, but normally it will chop around a little bit, and then it will start go again, and that's when the RL30 would turn. That's one of the patterns I noticed, not that it would do it every time. So I thought, wow, this is like, you know, I've been doing this for like 6 months, and I don't even know what the RL30 is. So I've discovered that. So I think that's, at least it's something I could use. And so what happened was, I actually looked at Alcoa. I looked back at I started like back testing it by just looking at the charts and see whether it would work in how many circumstances it would work, and whether I would actually get, you know, better results than just, you know, going too early with the RL10 and that. So that was a great discovery. I'll keep working on it. One of the things I learned this week is that, you know, there's so much, resources and materials are so rich, and I'm not even scratching the surface, but I've got enough to get going. Probably, you know, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, but there you go. But enough to keep going. At least I'm paper trading. I'm able to do the paper trading, which is important because for me anyway, the way I do it, I can't just sit and read, you know, like the whole manual and then start. It's just I mean, I'll forget what I read in the beginning when I got to the middle anyway. So that's one positive thing. And then the other thing I kind of discovered while I was going through this pattern was that there are certain times, and this is my other big issue for me, is trading in the chop, right? So the patterns, you will get a valid signal to enter, but then it will very quickly reverse. And you get the visa would flip, and the RL10 would cross the dragon. Am I getting to cross on the south sides, for example? And then you can stop and reverse, but then it will stop its fall and then reverse again. And if I was kind of thinking, if I did this mechanically, will I, you know, what kind of results will I get? I don't have the way, I don't have the skills to code that and back test it. But so I was just looking at the chart, and there were some times when I said, well, there's just no way I could have not make a loss in this situation. The patterns were valid, but it was just going up. It would then come back down. It would then do that. It would do that a few times before the big move. So my kind of work in progress probably is thinking, how do I identify that? Is there a way to, what tells me that this is a chop, you know? And sometimes it's a Z3, you know, when it's which I put on. But there are also exceptions. Sometimes a Z3, sometimes the move there will be a Z3 kind of pinch, and then it will be narrow Z3, and then but moves could happen towards the end of that while it was still in the narrow bands. So there are always exceptions. Anyway, so these are all kind of discoveries that I had, yeah, so that was, I just wanted to put something positive and not seem that it's such a dreary and dreadful week. But it was difficult because also what I did was I couldn't paper trade both the 30-minute and the 3-minute on the same symbol on my trading platform, or which is Trading View, which I'm using for the paper trading, because if I have one position and I want to go the opposite direction, and if I have the same account, it would just close off part of the other position. So I what I did was, okay, I finally linked up my live account to Trading View, and that was probably brought forward the testing of that. Anyway, I had to test it. And I took use a very small risk for the 30-minute, like $20. $20 for a wrist box, and try that. I thought, well, okay, so it can't be that bad. It's only $20. So I did that, and I found, like, you know, fail fast, fail forward. I found something very a limitation, which was that the stop. You know, when you're on a chart, you put your stop, and there's a line that shows you, and there's a box that tells you information about that stop. In the paper trading, it would tell me what the profit or loss is on that box. But when I linked it to the live account, it just says stop. And I said, well, oh. Then I'm like taking my calculator. What is the, if I move that stop, what is the loss now? And I did this for a few trades, and then I've decided that I can't trade that way. It just takes too much time, and it's no way. It's adding cognitive load to you, which you don't need, you know, at that time. So I found something that doesn't work, I guess, you know, something that failed, tested it to failure. So now my challenge is to go and find a different trading software or a different broker or whatever that will work. So that's what I discovered, that there are all kinds of things you find out when you start testing these things. Things never quite work out. anyway, so now I've been doing this for a while, and I for 6 months now, this paper trading and all that stuff, and I'm actually asking myself, look, is this really working out, or am I, should I really continue? And I'm really asking myself that quite seriously, because I mean, the last cohort we did, I think Tom Hardison mentioned a book called Quit, Annie Duke, I think it was, and I mean, I bought the book and I read some of it, and I think if I can paraphrase, I think in one of the learnings was that it says that, the optimum time to quit is usually long past by the time you decide to quit. So I'm kind of thinking, is this really for me? And am I can I actually trade, the system and not and or sort out my psychology or whatever it is, um, so that I can be profitable. And while I was pondering this, I think the universe kind of gives solutions normally. And I found on YouTube like a video that about a trader, and it was titled, don't give in, which was, I wasn't even looking. I wasn't searching for a video that says don't give in or whatever. It just popped up. So I think AI is so incredible now these days. It can read brain waves even. So um and he was a hockey player, and he actually got a scholarship, I think, to go to college to play hockey. So he played at a decent level, and he says he's played with uh, players who are now in the NHL and all that. So he was quite a good hockey player, and he's now a trader and has been a successful trader. And he said one thing he said was he said, look, trading is the hardest thing I've ever done. Is that compared to that, when I was playing hockey and getting to the level I did, that's a fraction of how hard trading is. Um, so that kind of gave me some hope, really. I don't want to make it sound like it's super difficult and everyone, so don't put people off, but it helped me. So this is what he said. And then he said there was, when he was learning about it and going through the training, um, he actually had one whole month where he had no winning trades. And I was thinking, okay, maybe other people also go through tough times. It's not just me. And so that gave me some kind of encouragement or perspective anyway. And then he said that when you are getting to that place where you think I'm just going to quit, he said just ask yourself, remember why you are doing it, why, um, meaning that, okay, you want to make money, that's fine, but things like, who are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? And he said, like, I realized that actually what I wanted is I wanted to do it for my family, or for his girlfriend, I think, or fiance or something like that in his case. So anyway, so it's the reason I'm doing it. It might help. That was a thing for me. And then there was also another video came out. I think I was looking at order flow, trying to find some information and learn something about order flow. And anyways, another training workshop, and this person, basically the guy giving the workshop, said, in your first year, just expect a drawdown. That when you first start learning, don't have some realistic expectations. Don't think you're going to be like, histogram's going to go up there. I mean, maybe some people do, I don't know, but basically he said, expect a drawdown in your first year, because you're going to be making mistakes, you're going to be learning, you're going to putting in the reps, all these things. It's not that easy. But if you're making profit, fantastic, keep going. So that kind of helped, gave me some perspective, and it was useful for me. In any case, I found I'm going through the actually, I bought Ableway Tech's notes, and that's really good, really, really good. This is on the advanced swing trading, and then there's so much, it's so rich, and I didn't think, at first my first thought was, this is I don't know if you've seen it or anyone's seen it, but it's laid out in the standard kind of notes format. I don't know if you've seen it, but anyway.
Cornell notes.
Cornell notes, that's it. Yeah, Cornell notes format. And to me, always it seemed that I was like, boom, you're faced with this barrage of information. I was like, oh man, do I have to go through all this? I thought it was, something simpler than that. But anyway, Cornell notes are really excellent because they have keywords. And then the keywords you go down and think, okay, that's a handrail for me. I can see what this thing is about. And if I want to dive in, I can engage with the details, all right? And then at the end, there's at the bottom, they say this is a synthesis. As the synthesis tells you, it's like keywords, but probably a bit more, even more summarized, another higher level. So it was really good, and I learned. I think that's where I found out the RL 30, or maybe not. Anyway, one aha moment was for me was while reading through the notes, psychology of stalking. Point 7, it says the edge. Your edge is willingness to take fractional losses on the way to 2R or more gains. So it gave me a real new perspective of looking at the losses, the little 0.5, the ones when you're getting in the chop and all that. And it, emphasized to me the importance of trade framing, right? Of working out your reward to risk, because when I started, I was just like, I'm just going to, if the pattern is there, I'll take it. And I didn't do any trade framing. Of course, that's a long time ago, but I've been doing some trade framing, but I can get better at it, the trade framing, to make sure I understand the bigger picture, and which is what Ken does every night anyway, on the SPY and the levels and then what he points out. So I need to do that more. So that's few things that I've kind of done to get over my whatever pessimism or things like that, and I hope that it will turn like price charts. So what else is there? I would just probably end. There was about us telling an important story, or story about an existential moment or whatever in trading. I don't know if that is the wording. Like feeling fear, exactly like what Jeff was telling me. That was his story, and thanks for that story, Jeff. I mean, when you were telling that, it sounded to me, all the standard work that you do sounds so much like trading and what Ken is doing. It's standard work, and it's so similar. The mindset you must have ingrained to doing those things are just, to me, it sounded so similar to what we want to achieve in trading, or what I want to do in trading. Talking about standard work and all that. So for me, the existential moment in trading, if I can put it that, was I have this okay. I mean, I'm in this trading group, if you like, and we use kind of options and covered call strategy. But it's headed by this trader who's been like he's 30-40 years Wall Street veteran, and he started in the pit kind of thing, and now he's I mean, the guy is just so good. He can do it with his eyes closed, right? So anyway, he one day he told us about this kind of it's I'll call it advanced strategy because it's quite high risk. Is to he will as we come to Friday and options are expiring, and towards the last hour, 30 minutes, he will look at he'll go through his list and look at things like Tesla and Nvidia and all these big names, and sometimes they have options that are very close to the money, but it's out of the money, and they would expire out of the money. But sometimes some of them have premiums left on them, like a few cents or something. And what he would do is he would wait until like the last 30 seconds or 1 minute or even less, sometimes 15 seconds. And if he sees that the option's going to go out of the money, he would just sell the options, which means he gets a little bit of income. So this strategy is like picking pennies in front of a steamroller. Seriously, it's not, it's, don't do it if you don't really know what you're doing. I will put this out there in case anyone's listening to the recording and say, hey, this sounds like a way to make some money. So so anyways, he taught us this, and it was telling us about this, and there was 1 week where the premiums were really high, not only in the ones that were close to the price, but even further out. So I did it, and it was about, I did it like 15 minutes before time. It was so far out, and because I know I use Ken's trading and the RLCC and the framing and the risk box, I thought, okay, I know my stuff, right? If I know R stat, and I know whether this thing is volatile, or where it's moved, and I can have a good idea of how the price would move. So I did that a couple of weeks, got okay, you pick up some loose change, really. That's all it is. And then one day what happened was, I can't remember whether it's Tesla or Nvidia. Nvidia, I mean, I monitor those two anyway. This was just so I thought I got a handle on these guys. And that day, so I think about 15 minutes out, I saw some really far out of the money, or what I thought was out of the money calls. And price started moving. I think it was Tesla. And towards the end, like the last minute or last 2 minutes, price started moving. It's moving, started to bring my out of the money strike into the money. And that day, my system was lagging. I was saying, okay, it's coming. I could see Tesla, it was just moving, it's going to that strike. And I was like, okay, come on, move. I need to close this position. And I couldn't do it. It was running down 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. I couldn't do it. It was just not moving. And then it broke through the level. And well, thankfully for me, it actually broke down and below the strike price, right? But that's not the end of it, right? Because the price, the reference price for whether your options finish, out of the money, the clearinghouse doesn't decide that until a couple of hours after the close. And it's the price is not just what the final, the midpoint of the bid-ask price on the trading day, on the trading session. How they just say, we don't do it, we take a multiple, points and all that. And so it was like, okay, has this option actually finished in the money, out of the money, or what is it? I was like, oh my gosh, I sold 5 contracts of that, right? So that's 500 shares of Tesla. That's about $80,000. So I was saying, okay, let's stay calm. Let's just work out what the implications are. I mean, I have a margin account, so I could pay $80,000. But that's not the point, but you don't know how much you've lost, right? So I started working out some of the potential losses, and it was manageable. It wasn't going to wipe me out or anything, but still, it's not a nice, feeling not knowing, not knowing whether it's what's happened with that trade. So anyway, that was kind of my fear moment, comparable, not quite comparable to yours, Jeff. Not the kind of life or death situation, but your mouth goes dry, churning in your stomach, and anyway, the good news is that it actually finished. It closed out of the money, so nothing happened to me. But since then, so what? As like you say, you when you get back into that plane the first time, is that when it happens, the next time, do I do it? Do I just stop doing it, and if I do it, what can I do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Of course, you have to take steps. So, one of the things that the action was that I make sure that my platform is not lagging. I actually test it. I will move around, find different, get it to change screens and all that kind of stuff to make sure it's not lagging. before I even think about doing this. So that's one of the actions I've taken. And secondly, I've been a lot more cautious. I've waited till the last, kind of seconds to get in, and I haven't done any of the ones I've further out the money, which you have to do early in the day. Otherwise, there would be no premium. Well, when I say early in the day, I mean like at least 30 minutes or 1 hour before. So anyway, so that's my story. I haven't. I've then gone back to it, like kind of Jeff in his plane. I've kind of did the one with all the additional risk management, and it's not. I mean, I don't know if I've even made $10 on that one. I'm not going there and trying to be the last big spender and doing all that. So, yeah, that's my story. I think that's it. Aho.
Well, mindful of the time, I want to just hit the highlights of some work in progress moments and whatnot from today, even. The Foundations Q&A hour-long session we did just before this one has so much gold in it for you to understand the relationship between 3-minute and 30-minute chart trading, and connecting that to your purpose. You just can't believe it. Everything just sort of came to that moment. So that hour is astonishingly good, and it has more on the MACD and some good, I think, some good psychology on the idea of one of the questions was, hey, what do we do with a COTA 2 entry if we're late on the first entry? And the next 2 or 3 minutes of the answer of that were absolutely essential for understanding why you have to get to the zero state and complete emotional release of the previous event before you can even begin to think about trading forward. If you're thinking in your mind, how do I get into this trade knowing that I missed the other one and that I'm late? You got so much emotional pressure on that decision that you haven't left the other one behind. You got to empty your bowl. Because how many other trades are you still carrying emotional baggage on into the decision of, hey, the only thing I got to do is time, will, pattern, and money. Do I have a pattern that's 2-to-1? Is there enough time left to trade it? Do I have the money in the account to trade it? Do I have the willpower to be in the zero state to trade it? If that answer is no, then you don't enter. That's how you get in. You don't get in if you're thinking that you're late. Only when you can look at that thing objectively as its own block of wood, ready to be carved. Doesn't owe anybody anything. Nobody owes it anything. It's just a block of wood ready to carve. When you're ready to carve, then you might begin carving a bowl. The block of wood is ready to carve, but you may not be ready to start carving. So if you're not ready, don't carve. Otherwise you cut your finger off or waste wood. We're not going to do that. So I thought that was even more important than the 3 and the 30-minute discussion, but then that was also really, really good. Chun-Long, remember that you cannot be looking at profit and loss as the determinant of how you're doing when you're trading 1 share live or $5, because the cost of commission is all out of proportion to what it's going to be when you're trading at limited rate production and full rate production. You are engaged in a pilot program of forward trading with small amounts, and you discount the cost of commission completely. You are only looking at R capture, dollars or pennies per share per transaction. If that works, then you will scale that to a level where commissions are irrelevant, simply the cost of paying your taxes or having a business license. So separate those in your mind for what it is that you're doing. I also want you to look at what's the positive reward for you to trade when you shouldn't be trading. Why is that such a powerful positive reinforcement for you in your life? There's something that's helping you with. What is the thing that is helping you with, so we can see what that thing is? What is the goal that trading when you shouldn't be trading is in support of? So let's find out what that thing is and put that on the table. And also, while you're there, what is the positive reward for trading in the opposite direction of your trading plan? You're supposed to go this way, you decide to go that way. There is a positive reward for doing that is satisfying something, some other project, that we want to just know what are the details of that and why is that so important, and are there other ways that we can satisfy that project and not inside trading? So where else in your life is that happening? What to do with all the information? Start cutting it away. Less is more. The less information I have, the better decisions I can make if the information I am selecting is important information. So you got to cut away the stuff that does. If it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter at all. What if you're the one that's naked, Ernie? I'll tell you another time a story of taking a handful of magic mushrooms and then asking the universe, all right, come at me, bro. Who's out there and what do you got to say? Because this is who I am. And I was surrounded by a ripple in the space-time visual display in which all I could see were an infinite number of eyeballs looking at me in every possible way, and hearing the murmuring of an infinite number of voices whispering what they were seeing and all that other shit. And I just felt in a strong position and said, let's go. I can deal with anything that you see or say from this point. So just come out. If you got something to say, step up. If you don't, shut up. Let's go. That was a formative moment. It lasted over 18 hours. It was not the only event that occurred in that 18 hours, but it was one of them, and it was pretty memorable. So, you're naked. So what? I just posted a essay on We Are Not the Descendants of Fearful Men, and all of the context that came from that 1954 statement when Edwin R. Murrow finally had had enough of Senator McCarthy and told him to shut up, go home. And he told the American public, we are not the descendants of fearful men. So that essay goes into what that was like. That was a turning point in American politics, and it connected to something foundational in who we are as a people, as a culture, and as a species. It is existentially true. So where do you find the courage? You already got it. Get out of your own way. Reasonable expectations and persistence and the connection to a community of practice, Kyun, is when a hockey player says trading is hard, you can bet that it's hard, because there is nothing harder than hockey except wrestling, and it's pretty close. In wrestling, it's 7 minutes, and hockey, your shift is a minute. But in hockey, you're on a sheet of ice with razor blades on your feet, and guys have war clubs in the other hand, and they're probably drunk. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at that. So Yeah, just amazing work again. Jeff, keep doing the due diligence and the application, seeing it all the way through to the end. And I would just close by saying, you start with a really good research question, which came from a problem area where your intuition says there's a problem or an opportunity in here somewhere. You turn that into an actionable research question that can be answered with the proper method, due diligence, data gathering, analysis according to the right model, and then to draw a conclusion that's justified by evidence. So what? You've now converged on, you did divergent thinking, you converged, and now you got your answer. So what? Now, what's the next thing to do? That's the hard work. The easy work is the research. The easy work was finding the question. The hard work is, okay, you got a question answered. You have the best answer we can get according to that method. Now what are you going to do? So you got to figure out what to do next. And then you got to prepare to do that. And when you are ready and you are prepared to work, you got to be able to say, I'm ready to work, period. What's that work look like? Okay, figure it out. I am ready to work, period. Let's go. That's the courageous act of the next step. And in a dynamic world, that's the start of the flywheel, or adding to the flywheel. And I will always remember this day, Kyun, as the day you discovered the owl. I have been saying for approximately 20 years, the most important single thing is the regression line 30 and its slope. If I could only trade one thing, I would trade the slope of the RL30 of the S&P. That's why it is central to my understanding of the market condition. It itself is the single most important thing. And it's the last and final criteria for the owl pattern. All the other things had to happen. The SSC had to happen. The regression line crossover had to happen. The dragon had to turn, which is the 10, simple moving average, and now the RL30. When you look at a simple moving average 10 and compare it to an RL30, you'll realize that they're pretty close, but the RL30 is the last one to go. The RL10 will go a little quicker, usually, and the RL30 is the final piece, and then you're in. So somewhere between the RL10 has crossed the dragon, not earlier than that you enter, not later than the RL30 has turned. Only the young mountain climbers are playing the 1, 2, 3. And the only time I do a 1, 2, 3 is if by inspection I can see all those other criteria have hit, and then it's a special case. It takes an enormous move down and then an enormous move up to justify the WMB3. So it's either the SSC or it is the owl. And then everything after that is all the Kata 2s till it climbs to heavenly glory. And then the further it's sold off, the more Kata 2s there are on the way up. After the internet bubble blew up, and after COVID blew up, after moves of that magnitude, there was 18 months worth of Kata 2s until it got back to something like fair value. That's why the Kata 2 is important. But that's also why the SSC is important, because it marks off the beginning of the discussion. Is this the moment that it turned? Well, it might. But it has to start with an SSC. Nobody lives through a bear market and then it goes into a sideways quiet channel for 2 years and then slowly. No, there's always somebody ready to say, I think that was an overreaction. I'm ready to go. And the other guy said, no, it isn't. We're going to fight. That's why it's always contentious at those turning points. But the Kata 2 is the sanity for long-term reentry with the minimal information set. That's all you need. To me, the limited indicators I have on the sniper is all you need. Thin price, RL10 and 30, Dragon and PSAR. That's all. Nothing else. And your wrist box, you got to know that. You got to know the size of your range size. So now I know what my dimensions are. But those are the only ones I need for decision. Anyway, I got to hustle over to the soccer field and set it up. We're practicing in 30 minutes. Great work. And this will be posted shortly as the in the Creativity 202. I've already got the links posted to the earlier morning session. That's already posted, so +1 to me. All right, take good care, guys. Now, I guess we should listen to your word for the week. I think we should just do that. There's the tone. Chinlong, what's your word for the week?
Release.
Yeah. Ernie.
Work.
Jeff.
Where?
Ken.
Re-enter.
There it is, guys. Mine is protect my goal. Kids on both sides in the game this weekend knew that was their plan. I asked the other team, what's your plan? They said, protect our goal, get the ball, go to the goal, shoot and score. And I looked at the other coach, who's the director of our entire rec program. I said, there you are. That's what. Because she had asked me for what are your secrets and coaching tips? Your kids are so good. I said, well, that's all it is. Those 4 things, and the kids know it and they try to do it, and I just show them ways. That's all. All right, guys. We'll see you soon, and take good care. Long out.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.